Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Man Cave. She left me for an island paradise while I'm in this cold, frozen wasteland. Take a look. Well, I thought I would show you the frozen wasteland here. Most of the snow is gone, but you can still see a lot of ice. The creek, which flows constantly, you can see a lot of ice on the creek. The sun's coming out today, so today's supposed to warm up maybe in the upper 20s, possibly 30. That would be nice. Get it around, below freezing maybe, above freezing, I should say. You can see the pond. This is the significant thing. This pond barely ever freezes over completely, and it looks completely frozen. Maybe right up there where the spring is coming in, right in that area, it's not quite frozen, I can see. That's the only place. This pond generally doesn't freeze because of the spring water and because it's so deep. If it wasn't deep, it would probably freeze anyway. But it's 11 foot deep in the deepest place. So what I'm really wanting to show you is the status of the water wheel, which I have not seen yet, but this should be the worst case scenario, at least hopefully for this year, because this is the longest cold snap we've had. And let's just see what the water wheel looks like on the other side. It can't be good. It cannot be good. Let's see, first of all, is there water coming down here still? Yeah, the water's still flowing here, and amazingly, there's almost no ice on it, and that's because it's on the ground and that water keeps moving. So it's obviously coming through here, and you can start to see the frozen wasteland there. Oh my gosh. That's about as bad as it could get. Yeah, that's about as bad as it can get. Look at there, there's frozen waterfall there. And then look at all this. Yeah, that's a mess there. That's about as bad as it can get. There ain't no thawing that out. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, you can see the water. See, it isn't even froze right there. That's because this spring water keeps coming in here, and it's warm because it's coming out of the ground and it's moving. So in this general area, the ice couldn't be very thick. In the thickest area, I doubt it's more than 2 inches. Let's just see how thick this is, if I can tell. Oh, this is probably 2 inches right here. Yeah, this is probably 2 inches at least. I can't break it. So it's thicker than you think. We could probably walk on it over there. But yeah, that's a frozen deal right there. I knew it would be about as bad as it could get, and I think it is. I don't think it could get a whole lot worse than that. If I can get across the ice there. Yeah, but it's amazing to me that with all this frozen, that's still thawed. That's crazy. There was one year where it froze solid enough to skate on. I don't think it's that solid yet, though it might be. I can see here the air bubble down there is at least 2 inches down, if not further. So let's go around here, what I think would be the thicker part. Yeah, that looks fairly thick right in there. It's hard to say for sure though. And then the water's traveling out here, so over here again it probably won't be frozen, or at least not solid. There should be, this water here, it's probably not frozen too badly. Yeah, it looks like it's at least an inch thick, though. Let's see if water's coming out. I think it should be still coming out. Yeah, look here. Yeah, it's still coming out. I can see the water coming out there. Can you see it? And you can hear it for sure. Yeah. Well, before I put this pipe in, as many of you already know, all that water went out into JR's field, and it pretty much rendered this whole bottom of this pasture completely useless. And while he hasn't really cleaned it up too much, the horses can use all this now. And it probably needs to be cut and maybe re-sown with some better grass or something. You can see this is pretty shallow. I'm curious if this is strong enough to stand on. Yeah, it is. Really very strong, actually. That's really thick. Yeah, I can't even crack it. That's pretty thick. I don't know how thick it is, but it's not even cracking, so it's probably skatable now as long as you don't get in the too weak areas. But it's not really smooth as it could be. You know, I've seen most of the time ponds freeze a little smoother than that. I don't know why it froze so non-smooth, and looks like somebody might have thrown something in right here to break the ice or something. I don't know. Or is that just, yeah, it's solid here. Yeah, stepping on it. I'm not breaking through. So anyway, that just goes to show you it's really cold, because this pond typically don't even freeze near this much. So, in fact, there's been a lot of winters where that pond never froze at all, even though the winters are cold, you know, really cold. Let's see if we can see anything going on under the bridge here. I was curious to see if maybe the bridge somehow kept it warm enough not to freeze under it, but it's frozen. And you can see the water bubbles going down through there. Air bubbles, I should say. Yeah, we're very fortunate to have this much water on the farm. Farms are much more valuable when they have water, and in the day when this farm was really used, I'm sure this was a valuable commodity here. Well, I think that's going to be it. That's a tour of the frozen wasteland. And I will say it was cold, though. Today, it's warming up. It's actually warmer than I think they even predicted. I just looked at the thermometer. A second ago it said 37, now it says 36, so at least that's above freezing, so that's a good thing. You know, the 30s is not that big a deal to heat this house in the 30s. I mean, it's still way more wood than anybody else would use, but it's not like it is when it's down in the teens. Oh my gosh. I discovered something on the phone today. You know, we're talking that little shadow that you see down the bottom. There's definitely nothing on these lenses. I took this cover off, and there is a plastic cover over the front here, but there's no cover over these lenses. I just wanted to verify that. The lenses are just plain old glass. You know, there's no cover over the lenses at all. And, you know, I looked at it really close, and there is nothing that you can see with your eye that's causing that shadow. It's either inside the glass, and I still don't see it. I mean, I've looked with my close-up glasses and everything and got it in the light. There's nothing there. But I did notice one thing. If I, you know, like it's got 1 power, 2 power, 3 power, 4 power, 5 power, that type of thing. I thought if I zoomed in, it would go away, but it doesn't. If I zoom out, it goes away. So if I zoomed out to like 0.5 power so that it makes more in the picture, that little shadow is not there. So I don't know. I can't explain it. But I'll try videoing that way in the future if I remember to do that, and try to get rid of that shadow and see how that looks. It may look weird on screen. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. Well, I don't have a lot today, so let's go to the comments. If you do have any questions for me or anything, be sure to put those in the comments as we get, and I will get to them. If you start your question or comment with question marks, that way I can find it. David Tharp was the first one up there. He says, howdy all, it's Vocabulary Wednesday. Pasteurize. It means it's too far away to see. Past your eyes. I get it. Let's see. Eric, advice for coping with this weather. Never make snow angels in a dog park. Gross. Yeah, that's the one thing. I hate that. I absolutely hate dog mess. That's the worst thing to me. I don't know why, but I think it was from when I was a kid. I was the one that always had to go in the dog yards and cut the grass inside the dog yards, and I absolutely hated it. And to this day, I hate it. I just can't get over it. Horse manure don't bother me much, but boy, the dog does. Man, it lights me up. Let's see. David Tharp, I just opened a shoe store. So far, I've successfully kept everybody away. That's pretty much my typical business venture right there. Bill Rhodes, good afternoon, and good afternoon to you. Let's see. And moving on down, I don't see any more question marks there till we go live. And David Tharp was the first one there, and says, I saw a sign in the store window that read, "We treat you like family." Yep, not going there. Yeah, that's that could work either way, couldn't it? And there's Bill Webb. Chip Wood. He says, I'm out cutting. Well, I will be out cutting firewood for sure tomorrow. I thought about it for today, but I think it's actually supposed to warm up even more tomorrow. Trust me, I don't care that it's that cold. Honestly, I don't. But, it's the ice and everything. I'm just hoping that maybe some of that will melt off, and it's just easier to get up and down these hills because they are ice covered. Because unfortunately, it seems like everywhere I have to go up and down, it's on the shady side of the hill. Let's see. David Tharp. Time to get out the old Zamboni to smooth out that pond. Yeah. I think that ice is much thicker than I first gave it credit for. I think it's probably 5-6 inches thick. It's pretty thick. I couldn't even crack it. I was stomping on it pretty hard, and it didn't crack at all. And usually on a pond, at least my experience, generally if you step down hard, you'll see a crack take off, It didn't do anything. It didn't crack at all. So it's pretty cold. Let's see. Chipwood. Put cutting hickory. Never thought of hickory as a tone wood. What are your thoughts? I would imagine you could make an instrument out of hickory. I know you could. You could make one out of oak, like I said. But from my little bit of experience with hickory, and I don't have a lot. I've cut quite a bit of it for firewood, but I've never really messed with it in terms of lumber too much. I've made a few handles out of it, but I've never really paid much attention to the tone on it if you tap on it. So, again, it's just that black and white rule. If you hold it right, and again, holding it right is it's kind of a subjective thing, but typically, like on a board, this would be your proportion. You'd have a little bit sticking out the top, and you'd have quite a bit sticking out the bottom. And so if you could look at that as maybe a 1/4, like I'm 1/4 of the way down, or maybe almost a third of the way down, that's about how far down you want to hold your board. And you tap on it. And if it makes a note, if it's a sustaining note that you can hear, then it would work. But honestly, I doubt hickory would make a very sustaining note. I might be fooled on that one, because that's one I really haven't experimented with. So I don't really know for sure. GNP Old Marine Shop. Hi, Jerry. A cold and sunny day is okay once in a while. 6 degrees here and sunny New York. Yeah, well, that's pretty chilly. But we've been matching you over the last several days. We've had 0 to, I think yesterday it got up to about 14 or 15, and that was it the whole day. But today I think today and tomorrow, according to the little forecast thing that's on my phone, it looks like it's supposed to warm up a little bit more. Maybe even into the 40s would be really nice. I'd like to get rid of the ice. Ben Boyd, let's see. Regarding the speck on your phone lens, it's a speck of dust on the digital sensor. Well, it might be. I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely on the inside of the phone, because you can't wipe it off on the outside. I know that for sure. So it might be. Rod Wentler, the place ain't the same without Dottie. Yeah. And I wonder, where is she today? I didn't hear that she was going anywhere. Let's see. Cup of Cool. Maybe I'm in the minority, but that shadow doesn't bother me at all. Well, it doesn't bother me much either, but, some people focus on certain things, and truly it's a mind over matter thing. If you let your mind focus on it, it'll drive you crazy. It's just like a lot of things in life. If you can get your mind off of whatever the thing is that's bothering you and put your mind on something else, it generally won't bother you. WP, Shady Side of the Hill sounds like a potential song. Yeah, I'd started off with "It's slick as snot on a doorknob." Bill Mumbo, they used hickory for drumsticks. My brother preferred them. Yeah, hickory's a real good handle type of wood. It's very strong and yet has some flexibility to it. Like it's the old timers for sure, and pretty much everybody really uses hickory on wooden handles. Any kind of wooden handle generally is hickory, because it doesn't break easily and it's got some flex to it, but yet it's super strong. So it's got the right combination of all those properties for a handle. So anytime I need to make an axe handle or just a small hammer handle, any kind of handle, I always use hickory if I can. Let's see. Wavy Gravy. Jerry, are there any good hills for bobsledding around your place? Oh, there'd be plenty of them if you took time to, clear out a trail or trees or something. There's a lot of rocks, so, you'd have to do some work to make it work. But for sure, there's some of the hills you could go quite a long ways. Like I said, on the other side where that cave was, if you heard me say that, I think if you started at the top there potentially you could ski for at least a mile, I think. That really goes a long way down to the Blacktop Highway. But it's a long way down there. So just if you could stay on the side of the hill, you know what I mean, and just gradually go down the hill, I think you could easily make that a mile long. And really, on our valley, the hills aren't quite as long, but depending on how you did it, you could do the same thing. You could make it go. You could ski nearly a mile, I think, on our property if you did it right. But it would be a ton of work. Let's see. Ben Boyd, I'm guessing the dust got on the sensor when you opened the phone to repair it. Yeah. By the way, I went ahead and ordered yet another, new what do you call that, glass, I guess, for this. It's washing out for some reason. It's way whiter on the screen than it is right here looking at it. But anyway, because of that line in there, and it's just aggravating me. So I just went ahead and ordered another one, and I thought, well, while I've got it open, I'll blow through there and see if I can't figure out what's causing that problem and maybe get rid of that problem too. But anyway, let's see. Christy Sheeks, one of my guitars is a Seagull from Canada, acoustic made of maple, nice sound and action. Cool. Yeah, in Canada, of course, maple's a real popular wood. I don't know if it's your country tree or what, but you got your maple leaf and all that, so I know maple's incredibly important. In my opinion, for instruments, maple is excellent for violins and cellos and things like that on the back and sides because it's that long vibration. It's a different technology with that. When you're using a bow, that it's got that long vibration. It just keeps going like that. Well, that vibration then works its way through that wood. It works really well for that type. For my opinion, and I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I'm not as bit high on maple for guitars and mandolins. Well, mandolins is a little similar to the violins in that the mandolin, it doesn't need to resonate like a guitar needs to resonate. Mandolin is more of it's more like a drum. It just hits the back and bounces out. So for a mandolin, with that chop, maple works pretty good. But on a guitar, it's a different technology. You're hitting that string and you're expecting that string to vibrate the whole instrument. In my opinion, maple isn't the best for vibrating like that. Now, having said that, Victor's, when I was up there visiting Victor in Canada, I can't remember. I get everything mixed up. I don't remember if it was his father-in-law or just his friend or whoever it was that was building the guitars out of maple. Man, his sounded good. His basically changed my mind. Because up till the ones I heard of his, I was never really sold on maple. So, I don't mean to hurt your feelings there, Christy. I'm just telling you that, of the different choices, that would have been one of my least choices for a guitar. Now, like I said, for the other instruments, it's really your first choice. Let's see. Bill Mumbo. Jerry, get Sue to bring the weather back with her. Well, I'm hoping that contrail and the jet will suck some of that up this way. I hope so. Boy, she went at a perfect time because she absolutely hates the cold, and it was the coldest so far while she's been gone. So, it's like you couldn't have picked a better time to go. But if we'd have both gone, then everything here would have just froze solid and busted, and we'd have had a disaster. It would have been a disaster because nobody's going to take care of the place like I do. Nobody's going to go out there and put wood in there every 6 hours, and cut the wood and all that. You can't keep up. It would have been a disaster. David, stealing someone's coffee is called mugging. Let's see. Ronald Todd, I left hide glue on the shady side of the hill. I left your hide glue on the shady side of the hill. Let's see. You could even say I hid your hide glue on the shady side of the hill. Jason McClure, I think the 0.5x uses your wide angle lens, separate lens, so whatever the issue, it is within your main lens. Well, that could be. That's a possibility. I don't know. It seemed like it was using the same lens to me based on what I did was there's 3 lenses. And what I did was I had it on the camera and I put my finger over one lens and then another and then another. And it until I finally found it. And of course it was the third lens I put my finger over. and I think it was this lens here, or it was one of the two outside ones. I can't remember, honestly. I was sitting down when I did it, and I think it was this top lens and this one over here on this side, which it seemed like, to me, the same lens either way, but I don't know. Maybe not. Steve Mays, mind over matter. If you don't mind, it don't matter. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yep, that's exactly right. Chip Woods, thanks, Jerry, for the knowledge. You're welcome. Paul Akers, do you put a pick guard on before you put a clear finish on a guitar or after? Well, I would finish the guitar and then apply the pick guard. Yeah, either way, I would do it that way. Because the way I put the pick guard on, I'm going to apply it with a two-way tape. That way, if you ever have a problem with it, you can get it off and fix it. So I put the finish on first. Now, having said that, not everybody did that. Martin, I don't think, did it that way, and I don't think Gibson did it that way at least on some instruments. I think they did it actually, I think Gibson did do that way on quite a few instruments, but I've seen it both ways. Let's just say it that way. But for my preference, it would be to finish the instrument first and then apply the pick guard. And to me, that just makes sense, because that way, if you have a problem with your pick guard and you need to replace it or anything like that, then it's fairly easy to do. I guess you could make that argument that you could do it the other way too, but it doesn't seem as easy to me. I like the two-way tape, and it holds it really well if you put the two-way tape on very well. Christy Sheiks, laugh out loud. I'm from Michigan. The guitar is from Canada, but they are selling them here. Yeah, okay. Well, I probably implied the wrong thing there. I meant I was really referring to the guitar, but when I was up in Canada, I did play several guitars made by that fellow. They were handmade guitars, and I can't remember his name for anything, but they really sounded good. I mean, really good. I was blown away, actually, because I had never picked up till that point, I had never played a maple guitar that I was really very satisfied with. Let's see, moving on down, Wavy Gravy. How is Oliver, the draft horse, doing these days? Did he fly down to the Bahamas with Sue? Well, Oliver really has been a super success story overall. For those of you who might not know, Oliver was the big Clydesdale draft horse that JR rescued. It was quite a story. He went to when he was at the auction, he saw the horse was starved to death. I mean, literally starved to death. He was still standing, but barely. And he wanted to buy him then, but he didn't have the money, and he couldn't afford it really. And so he showed pictures of that on his channel. Well, then the viewers got behind it and donated, and it was a week or two later by the time JR found out where the horse was, and it was down in Texas by then. I mean, the auction was up here in Missouri. So he was down in Texas and on the same farm that I guess brought him all the way up there for that auction, and he didn't sell, I guess because of his poor condition. And I am not kidding you when I say this. That horse was a week tops from death. I mean, absolutely 1 week. He'd have been dead or so near dead. He didn't have more than a week. I'm sure of it. I've been around horses my whole life. So, yeah, he was on death's door. And because his viewers donated the money, he went, got everything he needed and had all kinds of car troubles and trailer troubles on the way down and back, but because he didn't have real good equipment, at least at that time. He just got a new truck, by the way, so he's doing better now. But anyway, he went down and bought the horse, brought him back, and nursed him back to health. And he also had a disease on top of everything else, and it's a disease from possums, believe it or not. It's where possums get in the hay and mess in the hay, and then the horse eats that hay. I forget, EPM is what it's called, EPM. I don't know what that stands for, but I'm sure you could Google it and find out. But anyway, the horse had EPM. Now, 9 times out of 10, you can't cure that. It's not totally incurable, but most of the time, your horse is going to end up with a problem. It's not ever going to get back to 100%. Well, somebody was watching over old Oliver, because he's 100%. He's 100%. He has no lingering effects from that EPM, and they treated him for that too. So that horse, it was just meant to be. That's all I can say. I never thought JR would get into the draft horse business, but he's into it now. He's got several draft horses, and he's really liking it, and he's doing real well with it. Let's see, Bill Mumbo. I have 2 Merlin dulcimers made by Seagull. They're tuned in the same, but played like a guitar. 1 maple and 1 mahogany. They're fun. I don't know a lot about the Seagull dulcimers. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen any of those. But dulcimers are fun if you're especially for people who aren't into music yet and are trying to get into music. Those are a real good, beginning instrument, if you will, because they're relatively easy to play compared to some of the other instruments. But I always say mandolin's easy to play because the one, you just have that one chord shape and you just move it around, and so it doesn't take too much to learn the mandolin, in my opinion. Let's see, David Thorpe. Gibson's jumbo acoustics have maple back and sides. Yeah, I know they do. I know a lot of Gibsons had maple, and I don't know, I could say rest my case, because I have never heard one of them that I really like. So that's just me, but I'm kind of picky on the sound of an instrument. So GNP, Old Marine. In fact, I don't think I ever heard a single Gibson maple instrument that sounded as good as the fellow up in Canada that made them. I don't think I ever heard one that sounded as good as his. GNP, Old Marine Shop. Would you ever consider buying cut wood before using a conventional heating system if you couldn't cut wood? No. My dad used to say this too, but you got to keep in mind his scale was 3% of my scale. I've got 97% of the scale. He was, my dad, he was heating a small house and with a wood stove indoors. And he would say you burn $1,000 worth of wood to save $500 worth of gas or heat or, electric. I would say it's even much higher than that. I'd say I burned several $1,000s worth of, wood to save, a couple $1,000s worth of gas or propane. I guarantee you, though, one thing for sure, if you filled up that propane tank, which it's a 1,000-gallon tank, and we do fill it up, by the way. We have it in reserve if we need it, but we don't use it. It only powers our kitchen stove and the hot water heater. The hot water heater is gas, and the kitchen stove is gas. That's the only things we use it for. So they only put 800 gallons in it, but I guarantee you, and I'm not exaggerating on this, you wouldn't use every bit of that in less than a month. It wouldn't even last a full month. And you know how expensive that stuff is. And that's what I said. The guys that did that, Bob, we bought it from Bob, and he was just a shyster. He was in deep, deep debt when we bought this place. And like I said, there were 2 propane companies at the closing to get their money. It'd break you. I wouldn't be able to afford it. And I couldn't afford buying wood either. There's just no way. You can't imagine. You just have no clue how much wood I'm talking about here. I mean, all you see is a little bit here, a little bit there. But when you add that up, it's, I mean, like I had, what was it, 4 trailer loads of wood and heaped full. And the trailer's 5 feet wide, 9 feet long, and, 20 inches high, heaped full. As tight as I can get it on there. 4 of them. It didn't even last 10 days. Yeah, it's nuts. I don't even know how much a cord of wood is these days, but it's several $100s. It's $200 or $300 in this area for a cord of wood. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know it's at least a couple $100. It used to be you get a cord of wood for $100, but not anymore. And if you think about that, I burn a cord of wood when it's cold like this. I burn a cord of wood probably in 2.5, 3 days. So, yeah, you'd be broke, just completely broke. I can't afford it anyway. You'd have to be independently wealthy. Like I said, it's just this house. It's an impossibility. And I can still do it this year. Might possibly be able to still do it next year. But when I can't do it, when we'll just move into the rental retreat and turn on the thermostat and call it good. Like I said, I really do think that's what keeps me in shape, though. And use it or lose it, the old saying. Mark Batchelder, longtime fan, but I don't comment often. I just wanted you to know, Jerry, that I am going home from the hospital after 2.5 weeks. Your familiar homespun broadcast was a comfort to me. Well, thank you very much, Mark, and God bless you. Hope you're doing well. I actually have heard a lot of those comments over the years, Mark. I've had lots and lots and lots of people send me a private email or a comment and say that, they were bedridden and, or they were in deep depression. I even had one guy said I saved him from committing suicide. It's just amazing. I guess God works in some very mysterious ways. Christy Sheeks, I'm a Patreon member of HH, and when JR got Oliver, there was another horse next to him lying dead. JR said the authorities were notified. I love Oliver, and he will be daddy in September. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. And then subsequently, JR, not at the same place, a different place, but JR rescued a couple of ponies, and the one of them died on the way home. That's how bad it was. The other pony is the little black pony, I think. I don't know their names. Me and names anyway. But the other little pony, it's doing well now. I mean, it was on death's door too, but it's doing really well now. And that's the one thing that I'm all the way for capital punishment on, serious crimes to humanity, all the way. I'll be the guy that pulls the lever, 100%. And I'm almost that bad when you abuse an animal that way. Think of yourself being put in a pen. It's like the Holocaust. I mean, those people were put in a pen and they weren't given any food, water, or anything else, or at least not enough. And that's the same way it is with an animal. You got them in a pen. By God, you need to take care of them, Now, I'm not I'm not a big animal fan, but I grew up on a farm. I got more beatings on animals than any person on this planet. If I didn't do something the way my dad thought it should have been done with those animals, I was beat. I mean, literally. And it's just the black and white truth of it. I've been beat every step of the way carrying a 5-gallon bucket when I was in like the 4th, 5th grade, all the way out to where the barn was, and every step of the way he'd hit me with a belt or a switch or something. So if anybody has a right to hate animals, it would be me. And I think if most of you grew up in an environment like that, you probably would hate animals. You probably would. I'm totally more neutral on animals. I don't hate them, but I also don't want them abused either. At all. And if I had to go pick those animals up, it probably wouldn't be pretty. It would be probably real ugly, actually. So it's a good thing I wasn't involved. That's all I can say. Christy Sheeks. Winnie the black pony. Yeah, Winnie was the one. Yeah, looks like she could be a mommy. She's doing so good now. GP Old Marine Shop, is there any laws against horse cruelty? Well, I mean, there's animal cruelty. I don't know the specific laws on that. I'll be honest, I don't have any idea. But I'm sure there are things these days especially about animal cruelty and stuff. But anybody that, if you got them in a pen, you got to take care of them. You got to give them water, you got to give them feed. At a minimal, that's the minimum. You should do more than that, but you got to do that at least. That's why I personally don't have any domestic animals. That's just not me. After the way I grew up, I pretty much swore off of that when I was a kid. I thought, man, I'll never have any of these things when I get old, and I don't. Now, I don't hate dogs. He had a lot of dogs too. I mean, I was getting beat for the dogs. I was getting beat for the horses. And, that's why I don't ever get attached to a dog. I just can't. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. I cannot, and I'm not going to lie about it because it's just the black and white truth. But I don't hate them, and I'm not cruel to them or anything like that, But I think if you had grown up that way, you might have turned out totally against them. You might hate them. I mean, it could have easily gone that way. But later, and because of all that, it was why I took so many psychology classes, which was probably the best thing I ever did. I wouldn't hardly go to a shrink if you paid me, because in my opinion, I used to work for 2 of them, 2 different ones. And that's what their degree was in psychology. And they were goofier than anybody I've ever met. So just based on that alone, I probably would never go to a shrink. But on the other hand, taking those classes in college was a good idea. Anyway, that's probably way more than you ever wanted to know. If you can still stand it, click the thumbs up. I would appreciate it very much. And we will see you tomorrow with something else. Thanks for being here.